Well, hey there, Smite fans, and welcome to what I think is going to be a pretty important interview. We're going to be talking with the Leviathans about a recent roster change. Admittedly, I think kind of blindsided everybody jumping into it, except probably the Leviathans themselves. And so who's going to be joining me other than the coach, Slainy, solo lane, Fineokay, and of course the person who is going to be taken in the hot seat, Panda Cat. For a brief little history, I think, to get us into this, guys, Leviathans this year, it's been a really interesting trajectory, I think, as an organization, right? After an early exit from the Season 9 World Championship, that left maybe a sour taste in a lot of mouths, leading to a lot of changes, right? Fineokay adapting, Slainy, you come in to join this team, and then the first phase doesn't go the way that you would have liked, right? A little middling, not exactly the success you would want to find, and that kind of continues into Masters, which I think leads us to now a lot of conversations that have been had. Zapman is now out, Panda Cat is in, so I guess specifically right now for Slainy and Fineokay, what were the driving factors of this decision for the team?
You want to go or me?
You go, Pete.
All right. I mean, obviously, I think it should be clear to everyone that Steve for Zapman wasn't the only issue that we had on the team. We had a bunch of issues, but we're just obviously having talks after how the phase went, and we kind of decided that we wanted a change in scrim and practice environment. I think we just had a different philosophy on how practice should go, not just with Steve, but just as a team. Mm-hmm. And we tried to work on things, and then come game day, it would be completely inconsistent with how things were going in practice. So I think just having really good practice was really important to us, especially coming into the year. There's always been history of Steve in practice and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he kind of said to us going into this year that he was going to really try with that. And I think there were efforts definitely made from him, but it just, in the end, it just didn't align with how I think the majority of us wanted to have practice go.
Yeah, little mentality changes that sometimes are necessary. You know, it actually has always been joked, and I'm curious if this has any bearings whatsoever on it, but it's always been joked that Zap is a second half of the year player, right? You know, you go even to the years where he won the World Championship, and it's not the most successful first phase. Were there any concerns or any conversations about that fact, thinking, okay, wait, maybe the second half will be better? Or were you just looking at what you had seen, kind of not getting burned by the stove a third time and making that decision?
I mean, I think it's definitely partly that. Obviously Zap will turn up for Worlds, he always does. But for a lot of us on the team, we consider practice really important. Mm-hmm. And I mean, to be fair, sometimes I don't consider that important, and I'm maybe part of the problem when it comes to contributing to a bad scrim environment. So that's something I need to work on, and I maybe contributed to a more lackadaisical, I guess you could call it a workplace. So that's something I personally need to work on. But yeah, I think Steve, if we had kept him, he definitely would have turned up even more for this time of the year. But, every game is important, and, it's our job to take this seriously. And there's two sides of the coin, where some people are getting mad at pro players for being late to scrims, but then some people are the only thing that matters is Worlds. So there's a weird middle ground that you need to find, where you're taking the whole year seriously, but you're also, preparing for the most important tournament. And I think it's possible that if we kept Steve, we could have done that, but we also just wanted to get a new environment going and just see how that felt, maybe remotivating some of us.
I know that was something, especially early on, I think we probably facilitated in adapting, coming back, maybe overshadowing some of the other changes, but, bringing in a new coach, having a new solo laner, that was pretty massive for a team altogether. I mean, that's half of the roster. Now, essentially only keeping Rongyu and Shinto, some pretty big differences, but, and we can try to pretend that he's not sitting right there and not able to hear every word we're saying. But what is it that for you that Panda Cat is bringing that maybe Zap wasn't bringing anymore? Is it just that maybe scrim and practice mentality, or is there some fire in the play that you're looking for as well?
I mean, do you want to go ahead, or do you want me to do it?
We'll both add a little bit here.
I'm listening.
I mean, to start off, I think that's another key reason as why we made this change is obviously it's no lie, we have a lot of voices on the team. We have a lot of people that have opinions. Steve is considered one of the best shot callers ever, but we also have other people on the team that want to try and step up and take that role as being a bit more shot caller and taking the lead. And even if Steve wants to try and take a step back with that, it's really hard to take the leader out of someone, like once it's just a personality trait kind of thing. It's hard to like unlearn or learn personality traits.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that Max isn't a leader. Obviously, he's a player that you can play around, but he's not going to be the one that's making like the final definitive calls for things, which is kind of what Steve was doing. And we kind of didn't need him to do, because we want other people to step up and take that role.
And yeah, I mean, it was like you said, it was mostly because we just want to have like more consistent practice and, like, especially when it just comes to like dual lane and Ronnie having like, like more consistent like matchups and, basically just not having somebody mess around a little bit here and there. So, yeah, it's that. I mean, I also think that Max brings like, I think Steve definitely partly brought this, but Max also brings, like I said it when we were talking to him, he brings like a swagger to a team, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is, I think, important, like when it comes to not just like gameplay, but like when it comes to like game day and just having, a bit of an edge. And I think that's important. I think that'll help me, and I think it'll help other people on the team as well, which I think is pretty big deal.
Fineokay, I actually think that partially answers the next question I had for you, which is that, famously, like, you, Panda Cat, and then the three-piece was you, Panda Cat, and PBM for years, right? It felt like that was just the lineup that was going to stick together. So in a two-part question, what did you miss most, I guess, about playing with Panda Cat on your team? And also, should Wrong You now be worried for his spot in some weird topsy-turvy Dragons reunion where Mike, like, comes in from the top ropes?
To answer your first question, I mean, that thick booty, you know what I mean? No, Max, like I said, it's just like a certain like swagger and stuff. Just hanging out in person is always a good time because Max is like my best friend, and that'll be fun, and we can talk about the game. Like once it gets pretty serious, if we're working out before Worlds, we can talk about things and try and fix issues if we're having in scrims. So that's important. But also, to answer your second question, that'll never happen because Mike is washed, and that's it.
Wow. There you go. Yeah, you heard it here first. Panda Cat wasn't going to touch that. Well, look, you've got your own Mike question a little bit later, so don't worry about it. Slainy, I'll come back to you for this one, but, Fineokay, you had tweeted this earlier saying that, like, it was pretty amicable. You guys had talked about it. Zap had even said, he's like, hey, man, I wasn't taking it seriously. I wasn't performing well enough. It makes sense. So, Slainy, like, what were the conversations like? You don't have to get into super detail if you want, but like, was this a long process that has been kind of mentioned time and time again until it finally snapped, or did it just kind of recently come up?
I think obviously I don't want to like speak for other people too much.
Yeah.
But I do think it's been on. It wasn't really anyone's thought going through the phase or anything. I don't think anyone was like ever thinking about roster changes as it was going on. But definitely. I would say during like, because this has been like a really long break, it just gives you more time to think. But it also gives you like, usually we have 3 phases, right? And then now we only have one more phase left until Worlds. So it kind of like forces a decision, I think, a bit more. So it makes you think even more in depth. It's like, okay, I could take a risk going into this phase, but obviously if this phase goes wrong, then that's Worlds, obviously you can still qualify later on, but you want to have a good phase as well. So yeah, I don't really want to speak for people too much. It's just a thing that was people on people's minds about why things didn't go well.
Yeah.
And we just looked all around, because like I said earlier, it wasn't just a Steve issue. This isn't going to replace Steve and suddenly we're going to be flawless. There's going to be a lot of like maybe in the duo lane, but there's going to be like a lot of improvements that other people are going to have to make still, even without getting rid of Steve. But I don't know. I don't want to speak for people. It's kind of like a hard question to ask because I don't want to like.
I mean, the most important thing I think is that Zap took it very maturely. He was very mature about it. I mean, he's been a professional for 10 years, so it's not like he's gonna pull a Warriors type situation. But but no, he definitely took it well, and he understood where we were coming from, and as you could tell probably by his tweet. So yeah, I mean, we all just wish him the best of luck, and we're still friends with him and everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes teams just don't work out, and I think that's fine.
And I think, much like Slainy was saying, you guys really did dissect it. And in fact, Fineokay, you even had just said, where you were like, you know what, some of this was on me. Like, I wasn't bringing a good mentality. So it's nice to see, I think, that the team is being as, I guess, introspective as it is, right? It gives hope to a lot of the Leviathans fans out there that are really rooting for you guys, that things are kind of tightening up. Which does bring us, I guess, to the man of the hour, Pandacat. You've had to sit there and endure, I guess, partial praise and also stuff that maybe didn't even matter that much to you. You retired, right? And as common for SPL pros, that meant you played around in the SOC a little bit, had some fun. And now I'm the SCC a little bit. So what is it that kind of prompted you wanting to come back to the Pro League itself?
Originally, after retiring, I didn't really have much intention to play Smite. I was just going to play in the SEC with some friends. But after hearing the news on like SEC pay cuts and whatnot, and whatever had to happen with that league, I'd say all of us pretty much lost all motivation to try your care, which obviously led to us eventually getting relegated. Granted, we played and it was still fun and all that. And then after that, I pretty much was committed to not playing Smite at all. Just had no interest in it. Then I kind of did some like IRL stuff. I went to school for I took 2 summer classes and stuff, and I did real estate, and I ended up just kind of progressing my own life. And then the Kings were having their roster issues with genetics, and I had offered to play for the Kings to swap Hark to support and come back as an ADC, just because I was kind of bored, and I thought, for the second phase, it might be fun to come back and play for Worlds. But that didn't end up going through. And after that, I was like, well, that's all right. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. And then shortly after, Shinto DMs me at like 3 a.m. one day, and he just goes, do you want to play, kind of? And he started talking to me, and, I kind of considered it a little bit here and there. And then I thought, like, well, what do I really have to lose? Like, the commitment isn't too crazy. It's obviously like they're not asking for much. I don't really have to do anything that I don't want to do. I obviously have to go to Georgia, but it's okay because the team's full of people that I like to be around. And I'm sure it'll be a good time. So, yeah, pretty much, I don't know. It was just like a perfect time, perfect place kind of deal,
Works out perfectly like that. I think you'll learn, at least from what I've heard, and I'm sure Fineokay and Slainy can at least attest to this a little bit based on the last few years as well. 3 a.m. for Shinto is probably about the middle of his day. So that's like gonna be relatively normal. I would probably expect a few more.
That's where he operates. Yeah. He operates his best at that time.
He's on full cylinders.
If we were playing SPL at that hour, everybody else would be awful, but Shinto would be unstoppable.
It would be a 1v9 show. Actually, there'll be some other people that give him a run for his money.
And at least 2 of them, and anybody who was on the Leviathans in the past probably fits that role, because they used to queue ridiculously late. But Pandacat, again, going back to you, this is the first time in years that we've seen you in the SPL level, at least, that you're going to be dual laning without PBM beside you, right? And there's something to be said. I'm sure there's going to be people who are saying, who cares? It's a support. But obviously there's going to be some different tendencies, things like that. So what are your thoughts about laning with Wrong You, and what differences do you expect from him as a lane mate compared to someone like PBM?
I've queued a lot with Ronnie in the past, like the late night duo queues, like a season ago or 2 seasons ago, and I'd say we meshed pretty well. So I'm not really too worried about like synergistically or synergies and meshing well in the duo lane. I'm sure it's gonna be probably pretty similar, if not better, because I think Ronnie plays more aggressive picks. Like he plays like a lot of Horus and stuff, which are picks that give you a lot of duo lane pressure. So I'm sure it's gonna be pretty similar to how Mike and I were. And I think it'll go swimmingly.
I think everybody, like, I've only seen positive buzz around it, right? People who are really excited to see you come back, to see what it's going to look like with this team. The Leviathans as a whole maybe feeling a little bit rejuvenated, which I guess brings to the ultimate question. It's one for all of you, which is just what in your minds constitutes success for this change. I know, Fineokay, you were talking about having another run at the trophy in your tweet. I know, Slainy, you had kind of mentioned, like, this is the changes. Normally there's a second phase in between, but now we're going into a Worlds phase, so, like, you have to be thinking about that. Is it just Worlds that's on the mind, or are there other things along the way that constitute success for bringing Pandacat in? Fineokay, I want to go to you first.
For me personally, I haven't been in the SPL for, like, 10 years like some other people, but it's been about 4 or 5 years now, and I feel like I've accomplished everything I wanted to besides Worlds. So we would not be picking up Max if we didn't think that this was going to give us our best shot at winning Worlds, and that's literally the only goal we have now. Obviously, we're going to have some fun down here in Georgia, but we're also going to be taking it super serious, and we do want to do well in the phase, but all eyes are on towards Worlds, and I think that's basically it. Worlds. Yeah.
Worlds. Slainy, are you in the same boat? It's kind of Worlds, or what was this for?
I mean, it's kind of like a cop-out answer, but in my eyes, I kind of want to. We all want to win it all, but I think we should be looking to expect us to win it all. To be honest, I think other teams maybe got worse, and I think if we take our practice as serious as we should, and we use this as like a time to improve, that we should put ourselves in a spot to be able to win the rest of this phase, tournaments in between, and then Worlds as well. I mean, we're running it back. It's the little ghost rival reunion here, so got to break the curse.
Is there any nerves about that, by the way? Like, is there anything like kind of plaguing over your minds? Like, oh no, wait a minute. Every time this has happened, you always have gotten to the final step, and that's where it stopped. Is there anything maybe stressing you guys out about that? Or do you think that because not only having Shinto along you and adapting alongside you, like, there's just fresh air?
So.
My
we
God.
don't have that.
Just catching strays left and right.
I mean, me personally, no. I mean, whenever you get to that moment, if we can get to that moment, you're kind of just like in the zone, in the flow state most of the time. But yeah, I know me personally, I'm going to take this split really seriously. Probably most serious I've probably ever taken any SPL split, especially when it gets closer to Worlds. I think I'm going to try and do something that I haven't done in previous seasons, and we'll see how it works out.
If you listen very carefully in the distance, every other solo laner in the league just crap their pants. They're like, oh my God, he wasn't taking it seriously. It's going to be frightening. I'm sure a lot of people are actually really excited to see what you have.
Well, I don't mean serious. I wasn't taking it serious. I just mean
no, yeah, but I know what
doing things I hadn't done
level.
Before. Yeah,
you're going to unlock it. You were Super Saiyan 1. You're going to be beyond. Super Saiyan 2. Yeah, you're going to be the next level of Fineokay. And Panda Cat, I guess that comes over to you. In your mind, what is success for you coming back to the league? And is it just Worlds?
Success for me. Probably solo every ADC.
It's a good one.
Get this team back on their feet, because I just checked the standings, and 6th place is not going to cut it. Okay, I'm not a 6th place player. And yeah, probably just try to do my best to fill the shoes that I have to fill, and be the best teammate I can be for the next couple months, and give it my absolute all. And then hopefully, we win a ring for Alec, and I can retire happily ever after.
Yeah, retire, get back to real estate, just go on.
Sell a couple homes, wait until the next season, phase 3, hit my line, I take a little break.
And just rinse and repeat every year, right? From that point on, you know the pattern, you know where you're going to go. Oh, guys, I'm sure everybody is excited. Yeah, of course, obviously, right? That's the only reason you were here. It's none of the.
Before we end this.
Okay.
Well, the little brov on Twitter, $1,000 on her 1v1 for the SPL spot. Take it or leave it.
The SPL.
For the spot, yes.
We wouldn't take it. Wait a second. We didn't agree to that.
None of the other team was involved in that.
Double it and give it to the next person.
Keep it going. Eventually, it'll be one of those who chooses to finally take the money. Oh, guys, I'm sure everybody's excited.
Come get it.
Exactly. Come get it if you want the spot. Panda Cat joining the Leviathans. I know a lot of people have been really positive about this so far, and I'm really excited to see what you guys have to offer. Just a couple of weeks until the phase really starts to kick off, till we get back into it with the kickoff tournament and everything. So I can't wait to see what you guys have to offer. So thanks for joining me. And of course, we'll see you around in phase 2.
Bye.